I feel massively fortunate and privileged to have been supported the way I have throughout my career, and I think I've always felt that kind of encouragement, that sort of those well-wishing kind of sentiments behind everything. And I'm very, very fortunate to have that. I think all the guys will always just try their best, whatever, and that's really all you can do. You put your skills to the test and you try your best every time, and you do things with the hope that it all pays off, and you fight till the end. And I really feel that I've had a great run in terms of the amount of encouragement and support I've had when times have been tough as well.
Do you feel also the flip side of that people might look at you in the number 10 shirt and think, it's okay, Johnny Wilkinson's playing at 10, everything's going to be all right?
I don't know how short people's memories are, but these things change. Like I said, the one thing that doesn't change is that you go out there to do your best, and that's got me this far. That's got me this far so far this season with over in France. Just by going out there, preparing as hard as you can, and giving absolutely everything you have inside, and all for a fabulous cause. To represent your country against a world-class team. So nothing changes in that respect. And when you view it in that way yourself, that side of things, that kind of expectation doesn't really come into it.
Has your role changed, though, do you think, in and around the team and the squad, being that much older now, that much more experienced? Do you feel that it's different to how it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, when perhaps you could concentrate a little bit more on just you?
Yeah, it has changed a bit. When we were in the World Cup in 2003, I was actually still the youngest member in the squad, even though I was 24. Now the tables have turned quite incredibly, and now I'm sort of up at that older end. I don't necessarily see myself as being an old hand, but I appreciate that there are guys who are approaching a stage that I've been through in terms of the first few games of their career, and it's I guess you do start to fulfill a role of maybe being a little bit more of a supporter, and a bit more of a kind of a wise old head, rather than the guy sprinting around the field and tearing the place up. But it's definitely something I don't necessarily try and do that. I think it just happens, and I think it's happened to me. Maybe a few years ago people wanted me to fill that role, but I maybe didn't feel quite right doing it. I feel a little bit better now in that respect.
Do you also think that you've changed the way you would prepare ahead of Test week? I mean, compare and contrast how you would have done this perhaps 5 or 6 years ago to now. I'm talking Test week and I'm talking match day. Would you do things differently now?
It's funny because I've been through a real cycle and a complete circle of going through all the emotions and trying to change them, and trying to change the way you do this and change the way you do that, and this might help and this might help. But at the end of the day, you come back to a lot of it's the same stuff, because it's who you are, and it's what's worked in the past. But it's also, like I said, it's very much who you are. It's very much what makes you tick. I think what's important has been some of the way you just perceive it, and the perspective you have in terms of how to view the match itself, and how to view yourself and your role within the team. That's kind of what changes a little bit. In terms of what I do during the week, you could probably put the two together now and 10 years ago and run them side by side, and they're probably not that dissimilar, but the head on the shoulders is older, and maybe I've been through a few things which have changed the way I look at life and this sport now.
What about Martin Johnson? Your first taste under his leadership, under his management, having been a teammate of him, how is that dynamic? How have you found it, and what do you feel that he's bringing that's special to this England group?
It's funny because when we played together, there was always that little bit of space between us, certainly not in a friendship sense or in a kind of distant sense, but more just in a respectful level sense, where he was the captain and I was always a little bit younger, and I just viewed him as kind of being that extra level up, almost not quite the teacher-pupil type affair, but not far off, whereby he was the leader, and as much as I was fulfilling my role within that team, I was also there to be led by him. And so coming to a situation like this is not that dissimilar. I'm enormously respectful of that space that still rests there. But at times, it's nice to sit down and have a chat and know that it's someone that I've been through some very interesting times with.
What about the Aussies? A brief word on the Australians, because of course you've proved their undoing on a number of special occasions, not just the World Cup in '03, but the quarter-final in 2007 as well. Robbie Deans this week has already mentioned the fact that he thinks the single biggest factor for England is that you are back in that side. They fear you, Johnny, the Australians.
Difficult to comment on something like that. I mean, you're talking about a world-class team, and you're talking about a team that is full of players that have the ability to do pretty much anything in the game. So, although it's interesting, and it's in a way it's flattering to hear someone mention you in a team. I think both teams understand that the way to get the best out of your players is to support one another on the field. So it'll be the team that plays best that has the most success, and it'll be the team that plays best that releases players in certain positions. In Australia, have got several players in those key positions. So I've been very privileged to be part of some big occasions against Australia where we've happened to have come out on top. There's been several where we haven't. And I've been privileged to be in those as well. So you try and learn, you try and fight your way through this, you try and find a way to win, whatever it takes. And I think what we're talking about now is about two teams trying to do that. And we certainly know that Australia are a world-class team. The fact is, every time we seem to meet them, it's always at the latter stages of competitions, because they're always there, because they're a consistent team that always find a way to be at the top of the game and to win too.